There's a lot to say about The Golden Girls. The Golden Girls is an American sitcom created by Susan Harris that aired on NBC from September 14th, 1985 to May 9th, 1982. I don't know why I said 14th weird. Anyways, the show had 180 half-hour episodes and had 7 seasons. The show, whose ensemble cast stars Beatrice Arthur, or Bea Arthur, Betty White, Rue McClanahan, who played Steve's grandma in Blue's Clues, and Estelle Getty, is about 4 older women who share a house in Miami, Florida. It was produced by Whit Thomas Harris Productions and in association with Touchstone Television. You may be familiar with them. They used to be owned by Disney. We could talk about them in a video if you guys want. The show, featuring an ensemble cast, like I said before, revolves around 4 older single women, 3 widows and 1 divorce, sharing a house in Miami. The owner of the house is a widow named Blanche Devereaux, played by Rue McClanahan, who was joined by fellow widow Rose Newland, played by Betty White, and divorced Dorothy Zbornak, Bea Arthur, after they both responded to an ad on the bulletin board of a local grocery store a year before the start of the series. In the pilot episode, they're joined by Dorothy's 80-year-old widow mother, Sophia Petrillo, after the retirement home where she lived burned down. The pilot was taped on April 17th, 1985, and it's kind of interesting. The first episode features a cook/butler named Coco, played by Charles Levin, but his role was dropped before the second episode. The writers observed that in many of the proposed scripts, the main interaction between the women occurred in the kitchen while preparing and eating food. They decided that a separate cook would distract them from their friendship. In addition, the character Sophia had a separate cook, hold on, I got mixed up. So, the character of Sophia had originally been planned as an occasional guest star, but because Getty had tested positively with preview audiences, they decided to keep her as a regular character. The show came to an end when Bea Arthur chose to leave the series. In the hour-long series finale, which aired on May 1992, Dorothy meets and marries Blanche's Uncle Lucas, played by Leslie Nielsen. Funny how he keeps popping on my videos. Anyways, so Dorothy marries Lucas and moves to Hollingsworth Manor, Atlanta. Sophie is to join her, but in the end she stays with the other women in Miami. This is where we can finally talk about the spin-offs.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant.
The Golden Palace is an American sitcom television series produced as a sequel to The Golden Girls, a continuation without Bea Arthur, though she did guest star in a double episode, but that's besides the point. This show aired on CBS from September 18th, 1992 to May 7th, 1993, and starred Betty White, Rue McClanahan, Estelle Getty, Cheech, like Cheech and Chong, that dude, and Don Cheadle. Billy L. Sullivan also co-starred for the first half of its run. It wasn't as popular as its predecessor, and it aired for a single 24-episode season before being canceled by CBS. The show begins right where the first show had ended, and the quartet's now sold Miami house. With Dorothy having married and left in the previous series finale, the 3 remaining housemates, Sophia, Rose, and Blanche, invest in the Golden Palace, a Miami hotel that is for sale. The hotel, however, is revealed to have been stripped of all of its personnel in an effort to appear more profitable, leaving only 2 employees, Ronald Wilson, the hotel's manager, and Troy Castillos, the hotel chef. This requires a woman to help perform the hotel duties. The series focuses on the interactions between the hotel staff and the guests. Celebrity guest stars were frequent, and the series also featured the return of some recurring actors from the Golden Girls, like Deborah Engel as Rebecca Devereaux, Herb Edelman as Stan Zobnarak, Harold Gould as Miles Weber, and of course Bea Arthur reprising her role as Dorothy for a 2-part storyline where she visits the hotel to check on her mother. So let's talk about the production of this show. You see, Bea Arthur had grown tired of starring in The Golden Girls, so she chose not to return for an 8th season. Because of that, the show was retitled and revamped as a new series, The Golden Palace, with Betty, Rue, and Estelle reprising their roles. Like the original series, The Golden Palace was also created by Susan Harris, who had once again served as executive producer alongside Paul Junger-Witt and Tony Thomas. The trio had mixed feelings about the new series, but they felt obligated to continue onward for the sake of the cast and the crew. Thomas said, "We had been employing a lot of people, so to just pull the plug would have meant ending something that provided a very satisfying life for a lot of people." Betty White said that she and her Golden Girls co-stars were initially skeptical about the new series, but to our great surprise, we were having a ball. It's coming together much better than we had thought. Rue had suggested keeping the original series and adding a 4th roommate to replace Bea, but this idea was rejected by producers. That was a good choice. Originally, Alexei Sayle was going to play Cheech Marin's character as the chef. They replaced him before the pilot was even shot. The idea of having like a Latino chef as a comic foil to the rest of the cast had been originally proposed at the beginning of Golden Girls with Coco, as I mentioned before, but of course they wrote him out and stuff like that. So with Bea being gone and the core group down to 3, the concept was revived, so they added, the chef and stuff like that. Cheech wanted to brand out onto television and away from being typecast as a, LA stoner, and had previously worked on a film project with Witt. He was promised a spin-off series for his character in the event that the show was successful. Obviously, the show wasn't successful. Ratings were initially solid, with the show winning its time slot for its first few weeks, but viewership fell steadily as the season progressed. A 2nd season was to be greenlit according to Rue, but network executives decided to cancel the show a couple of hours before the upfronts, so CBS opted to not renew the series, canceling it in May of 1993. Harris attributed the series' failure to Bea's absence, saying it didn't work without her. The show's sole season was rated 57th in the rankings and was canceled alongside other shows like Major Dad and Designing Women. Following the cancellation, Betty White joined the short-lived 2nd season of Bob, which is a sitcom that I don't care about, but it aired on the same block as The Golden Palace for its first season. And Getty went on to portray Sophia in the later seasons of the next show we're talking about, Empty Nest. What became of the characters Rose, Blanche, Roland, and Chuy in the Hotel is unfortunately left unresolved, but we do at least know what happened to Sophia.
Life goes on, and so do we. Just how we do it is no mystery. One by one, we fill the days. We find 1,000 different ways. Sometimes the answer can be hard to find. That's something I will never be. I'm always here for anything you need. Rain or shine, I'll be the one to share it all as life goes on. We share it all as life goes on.
Empty Nest is an American television sitcom that aired for 7 seasons on NBC from October 1988 to June 17th of 1985, which is kind of confusing, but bear with me. You see, the series, which was created as a spin-off for The Golden Girls because it was created and produced by Susan Harris, but it also stars, Richard Mulligan as the main character, I assume. He plays the recently widowed pediatrician, Dr. Harry Weston, whose 2 adult daughters returned home to live with him. And of course, it was produced by Touchstone Television, as well as with Thomas and Harris Productions. An early version of the series initially appeared in the 1987 Golden Girls episode, Empty Nests, which was intended to act as a backdoor pilot for the spin-off, which was to begin during the fall of 1987 TV season. In the episode, George and Renee Corliss, played by Paul Julia and Rita Moreno, were introduced to the girls as neighbors, a middle-aged couple suffering from empty nest syndrome, which is when, when all of your children move out and there's, no one around to, yell at or whatever. Rita Rita Moreno later criticized the Empty Nest pilot, calling it a very, very bad show. She explained that the script desperately needed rewrites from creator Susan Harris, but she was very sick the week of shooting, so it was left to other writers to fix it. According to Moreno, every day they kept changing my character, to the extent that by the time we got to do it in front of an audience, I couldn't remember line one because the attitudes had changed so many times. That was the most embarrassing experience. I'm glitching out. Ultimately, the series did not go ahead as planned, and the premise was later extensively revamped, with a new cast before Empty Nest debuted in 1988. The set of the Corliss' house, however, was exactly the same as the one that later became the Weston residence. So, with all that out of the way, what is the premise of the show? Well, the show's story revolves around Miami pediatrician Dr. Harry Weston, whose life is turned upside down when his wife, Libby, dies and his two adult daughters move back into the family home. Early episodes established that the Golden Girl characters are neighbors of the Westons. Bea, Rue, Betty, and Estelle all guest starred as their characters, and Mulligan did appear occasionally on the Golden Girls. In the show, the eldest daughter, Carol, is a highly strong recent divorcee, while middle daughter Barbara is a tough undercover police officer. The two sisters frequently bicker and vie for the attention of their father, whom they call Daddy, which, that's normal back then, so we're not gonna make it weird, okay? Don't make it weird. All while they do that, their dad regrets not having a son. And also, they got a doggy! They got a large doggy named Dreyfus. He's a cute little guy. He's a little sweetie pie. In 1992, Christy McNichol, who played Barbara, left the show, so Lisa Rifle joined the cast as a third Weston daughter, Emily. Her character had not been previously shown on screen, but she was mentioned as being away in college. Rifle left after one season, and for the show's final 2 seasons, the only daughter Carol remained one of the Weston children. Christy McNichol did return for the series finale, though, in 1985. Harry Weston's job is another major focus for the show, because for the first 5 seasons, he works at a hospital, where he's assisted by wisecracking Southern nurse Laverne, played through the series by Park Overall. Wait, her name's Park Overall? You know what? I'm not gonna judge. Laverne and Harry are shown to be good friends, and in season 6, Harry retires, eventually going to work for a struggling inner-city medical clinic run by the tough-talking Dr. Maxine Douglas. Nurse Laverne, having been fired by Dr. Weston's replacement, comes to work there as well. I'm not gonna care about Carol or any of the characters, so I'll just talk about the fact that Estelle reprised her role as Sophia for the final 2 seasons of Empty Nest because of the cancellation of the Golden Palace. In the show, it's explained that Sophia moved back into the nearby Shady Pines retirement home, so that explains that. The guest star list is kinda cool. We got my boy Matthew Perry. I miss you so much, come back!
Here I am. Somebody's waiting, anticipating your tears. Here I am, right or wrong. Where I am, you belong. When you need someone there to be strong. Here I am. When the good times come into town. Here I am. For a hand or just hanging around. Everyone sometimes stumbles and falls. A friend is a number you know you can call. Just to hear someone tell you, here I am.
In 1991, Empty Nest spawned its own spin-off, Nurses, a show that we'll talk about later. Richard Mulligan and Dinah Manoff, who depicted Father Harry and daughter Carol in Empty Nest, had previously appeared as on-screen father-in-law and daughter-in-law characters in the show Soap, another show that we'll talk about, but in a separate video. I'll talk about Soap later. Empty Nest, The Golden Girls, and Nurses represented one of the few times in American television history that 3 shows from the same producer, all taking place in the same city and explicitly set up with the characters knowing each other from the very beginning, aired on the same network in one night. On at least 2 occasions, Susan Harris wrote storylines which carried through all 3 series as fictional crossovers. If you're wondering when the Golden Girls even appear in this show, Blanche is in episode 4, Sophia is in episode 10, Rose is in episode 14, and Dorothy's in episode 17. This series was unsuccessful when it was first syndicated, running in local syndication from September 1993 to September 2000s, shortly before the death of Richard Mulligan. During this time, the show aired on TBS from September 9th to December 6th of 1996, and on WGN, which is, it's just a subscription television network. Anyways, it aired on that from 1996 of September 9th to 1999 of March 26th, with both stations airing the series as part of the regular syndication run. In the subsequent decade, the series did not air on American television. Hallmark Channel, which also licenses the rights to The Golden Girls, picked up the rights to the show in early 2011 and aired from February 26th to June 26th of that year, but they eventually removed it altogether. Now we're on to our last spin-off from the Golden Girls cinematic universe, the GGCU. Yeah. Nurses is an American sitcom television series that aired on NBC from September 14th, 1981 to May 7th of 1994. Of course, created and produced by Susan Harris as a spin-off of Empty Nest, which itself was a spin-off of Golden Girls. Now, this is not to confuse it with the 1981 medical drama Nurse, or the 2019 medical drama Nurses from Columbia, or the Canadian show Nurses from 2020. There are a lot of shows about nurses. So, what exactly is this show about? Well, it's mainly more about the Empty Nest part of the Golden Girls cinematic universe. It's about the nurses who work in the same hospital as Dr. Harry Weston, so that's where that is. There was Annie, who is a strong-willed nurse, Sandy, sarcastic, Julie, who was dim-witted. I can assume they were going for a Golden Girl vibe. And then we have Gina, the Latina nurse, that who reminisces about her homeland a lot. The fictional San Pequeno. Oh, this is that kind of show. Then there was also the arrogant Dr. Hank Kaplan, the wisecracking orderly Paco Ortiz, and the flaky nurse, Greg Vincent. And there was also, Dr. Riskin, played by Florence Stanley. It was like a recurring role in like the first season. You may know Florence Stanley. She was in My Two Dads, which Davey made a cameo in that episode, in that show, and I just wanted to mention that. Changes were made in the first season in an effort to boost ratings. David Rush joined the cast as Jack Trenton, a slimy white-collar criminal forced to perform community service at the hospital. And in the final season, Lonnie Anderson joined the cast as new hospital administrator Casey McAfee. Other changes include the addition of Marcus Flanagan as hunky orderly Lucas Fitzgerald for only the second season. The changing of the show's theme song in season 2 and 3, and also having Nurse Gina and Dr. Hank Kaplan get married because he got her pregnant, and also Nurse Greg Vincent being written off after season 1. And then in the series finale, Sandy was gone. The series focus moved increasingly from the nurses to Casey McAfee's adjustments in running the hospital under a new HMO, and the antics of Jack Trenton and his sidekick Paco, the orderly. Surprisingly, the Golden Girls characters actually do appear in the show, which is like really, really weird. In season 1, Rose is in episode 9 of the show, and Blanche is in episode 20, and in season 3, Sophia is in episode 9, but that's really about it. And that's it. That's all the Golden Girls spin-offs. It's crazy that they had this many. Look, I only watched like some episodes of Golden Girls, and I was delirious when I was watching it. I was like flipping between VeggieTales talking about freaking Moses to that. So I do love them. No, I do love that Rue played Steve's grandma in Blue's Clues. But thanks for watching the video. I hope you guys liked that video. You know, I did my best. Did the best I could. The next video is about celebrity cartoons once again. This was a video I've always wanted to make. I did try making it, but I deleted it because it wasn't that good. The show we're talking about is Bruno the Kid. And it's about Bruce Willis, because he voices an 11-year-old boy, and also Mark Hamill's in the show. And Tony J. Oh my God, we got a lot to talk about in the show. Look at this, guys! I can never escape Frank Welker. He is stalking me at this point. Why are you in everything I talk about?
Thank you for being a friend. down the road